was born in 1927 in the little town of Hameln, H-A-M-E-L-N. If you have heard of the Piper of Hamelin, my father was in the cattle business. Two brothers were in that business together. I remember I was told no longer can you go to public movies or things like that. But I went anyhow.
You did?
Now, at that time, Jews were not required to wear the Star of David. If I had to do that, if I had worn that, I would not have gone to the movies anymore if the law prohibited it. Neither my father, my uncle, or my mother's brother never thought that Germany would touch them because they were heroes or soldiers in the First World War. All of a sudden, we were no longer acceptable citizens, and people that did business with my parents, with my father, were reported to the Gestapo, and soon the business was closed and we couldn't even buy meat at the butcher shop. I knew that we were no longer able to associate with what I considered to be former friends.
How do you feel about that?
Well, that was pretty bad.
Would you say that that's where the great betrayals lied for you? Was in the friends that had turned?
Yeah, and they were indoctrinated. You know, if you have a propaganda machine that is constantly saying Jews are rats, you believe Jews are rats. The brown shirts, they were called the SA. They were the ruffians that on one occasion, I think it was Kristallnacht, sometime in 1938, I think it was in September or November, came into the house and shut the lights out, and the milk cans were thrown through the windows, and one of my aunts had heart problems and was having some kind of seizure, and my mother said we need a doctor, and there was some comment or some of the public said you don't need a doctor, you need a veterinarian. When I could no longer go to school in this little village, as Oldendorf, my parents sent me to Düsseldorf, which is a town near Cologne, which was a pretty big city. And they had a Jewish school, so I could go to a Jewish school and did go there for maybe 6 or 9 months. And while I was there, one night the Nazis came and threw all of the furniture out of the window, and my uncle Max Westfield was an artist and he lived there. His portraits and other artwork were slashed with knives, and they destroyed much of the furniture and other items in the apartment. It was a condo. And when they came to the room that I was in, they opened the door and they shut it. They didn't do anything.
For some of the Germans, anti-Semitism was all they remembered. They grew up, born into it, it's all they remembered. For others, they had a relatively normal childhood, and anti-Semitism seemed to take them by storm overnight.
I think most of them were passive anti-Semitics. And maybe they thought that if they didn't participate, they themselves would be persecuted or prosecuted. When I left for England was just before the war broke out, maybe a few weeks or a month or so. I was with a children's transport that allowed me to go, not with my parents, but with a lot of other Jewish children to England. When the war broke out, almost immediately, the bombers came over there and blitzed London practically every night. All of the children, regardless of their origin, were sent to smaller cities in England. And I was sent to Northampton, which was a shoe manufacturing town in England. But even there, the V-bombs came over, and some of them struck pretty close. You know, everybody was afraid, even in Northampton, but these V-bombs came over, and we were said, don't worry about when you can hear them, nothing is going to happen. It's when they stop, when the motor stops, that's when you'll hear the explosion.
Where were your parents?
They came on their own maybe a few weeks later. And I stayed there for about a year or a little longer. And then from England, we came through Montreal to New York to Nashville. I think it was very lucky for me to have escaped, just a few weeks maybe before the borders were closed. My mother's brother and his blind mother and grandchild and the brother's wife all went to concentration camps and died and were killed. I can't believe that people could be so indoctrinated that they could actually just murder. That's what happened in concentration camps. The German government invited me to go back, and I did go back. And I talked to the citizens of Oldendorf, and some of the people I remembered, they were school children at the same time that I was there. I said, you're my age. So you were 12 or 13 when I left. Mm-hmm. And I can't blame you for what your parents have done. Okay? And I said, I'm here not to accuse you. I'm here to try to build some bridges if I can. Maybe if I had been sent to a concentration camp, maybe I couldn't have said that.